Under the Scope.
All right, Scope folks.
Hi.
Guess what?
We're in
Jared-
the car, but we're not moving.
Yes, so there's not going to be us yelling at people,
Nope.
Angry at drivers, doing all sorts of weird things to get in our way.
But we are going to review a movie.
And that movie is for the Scope Fall Film Flam. Mm-hmm. That movie is a one-word title, Jared. Gravity.
Gravity.
And it's
Got a hold of all of us.
it affects everybody.
It certainly does.
Every day of your life.
Yep.
This movie stars Sandra Bullock and George Clooney. Whoa!
It's getting a little warm in here, so I'm going to turn on the AC while we do this.
There we go. So we're going to pretend like we're in it. I like it. I like it. So as I was saying, Gravity, starring George Clooney and Sandra Bullock.
And that's about it.
Oscar-winning Sandra Bullock, Oscar-winning George Clooney.
And Oscar-winning voice of Ed Harris.
And directed by Alfonso
Cuarón.
I'm not...
You may know him from films like Y Tu Mama Tambien. I think he did that one.
I have that movie.
He definitely did the fourth Harry Potter film, or the third Harry Potter
Which is the last one that I've seen all the way through.
Yes.
I loved it.
God, he did something else recently that was really popular. I don't know. Sorry, guys.
I believe it was Ted, starring Mark Wahlberg and Seth MacFarlane. He
Yes.
directed that. Right?
Yes, indeed. Why not? You heard it here first.
So, you scopers out there, if you know anything about this movie, it's very simple.
Mm-hmm.
We got people in space doing a spacewalk.
Shit goes down.
Something breaks apart, and they're lost in space.
Yes.
And pretty much
try to get home.
Pretty much that's the story. It is hour and a half of intense space action and 3D action.
It is in 3D.
Which is done very, very well. So here's the problem.
Yes.
There's not a lot going on in this film other than the...
That's not a bad thing, I don't think.
Other than the attempt to actually get back to Earth.
Yes.
So there's not a lot of character subplots. There's not a lot of rigmarole. It's very singular. So I don't know how much we can say about it without spoiling the entire film.
True enough. I mean, it's not to say that there aren't character moments, because there definitely are. We do learn about some of the backstories of our characters and at least what may be motivating them.
Especially Sandy B.
Well, I mean, she's really the main.
She's the main character.
Main deal here,
She's in talks, or in the conversation for Best Actress. This movie is actually in conversation for Best Picture as well. It's in the film world out there. It did very well at the Toronto Film Festival. People loved it.
I think all the praise is absolutely worth it, honestly. This is a thrill ride from beginning to end, and as they like to say in Jurassic Park, hold on to your butts.
Yes. I'm no space camp aficionado, but my feeling is that this is probably pretty realistic, or it was done in such a way that it felt like, beyond some of the implausibilities that are going to happen in here. But
I mean, if you're sometimes during some of the calmer moments. Wow, Shane just went off.
Look at me, I'm in space.
Whoa.
I'm gravity.
Occasionally during some of the calmer moments, you do sort of have to kind of just pause and thinking like, man, if this really happened, these people would be so dead.
They'd be dead.
Dead.
Yeah.
But then you don't have a movie.
Yeah,
so...
I mean, there's a lot of like space stations in the vicinity. There's a lot of capsules that perhaps might come into play.
Yeah.
So you have to suspend it to that point. But like you said, it wouldn't be a movie if it didn't have that.
Indeed. I mean, everything has to kind of go right for someone to survive this.
Yeah.
So.
Which apparently in the movie,
you don't know how this is.
So let's get back. Let's talk about some of the technical merits of the film. Watching this, I said to myself, I don't know how they did this. I mean, I know how they did it, but I don't know how they did it. It is, from a technological special effects standpoint, it is good as you are going to get. The sound design is ridiculous. The 3D is perfectly used.
Let's talk about the sound for a second.
Let's talk about the 3D first.
Okay, we can talk about the 3D first.
It's great. Okay, now onto the sound.
The 3D is really well done. If you're averse to 3D films, you might want to give this one a chance. Mainly because so much of it takes place in space. Well, all of it takes place in space, honestly. But for the most part, there's a lot of backgrounds that aren't filled with so much detail that your brain has a hard time with it. So you really get a chance to kind of focus on the foreground characters and stuff that's going on. At the same time, the way some of the shots are staged is a lot of times you'll get the main character in the foreground and the action is happening in the background. So you're not having like what a lot of people like to do with 3D where you're zooming in and out of scenes and cutting away and stuff like that. There aren't a lot of cuts. So it really gives you a chance to kind of focus on things a lot better, which I always have trouble with 3D films. Is I'm trying to, my eyes have a hard time trying to figure out where to focus. So I didn't have any problems with this movie.
They also do a lot of first perspective, so almost like you are in an actual first-person shooter, which they tie the 3D in as well.
Yeah.
This is one of the few movies that I've seen where the first-person perspective actually works well, and it ties into the fear and panic that you would have floating into nowhere, or not knowing where you're going to go, or your momentum taking you, or a fire behind you, or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah,
it's breathtaking in bad ways. I mean, it's
sure enough.
And that's something the movie does really well. It sort of fluctuates between the beauty of being above the earth and then the fear and the helplessness that you have being lost in space, essentially, with no tether and nothing to guide you except your brain.
Yep, and we talked about the sound and how well that was used in this film too, and that sort of is also used to sort of play with your emotions and sort of indicate where things are going.
They do a lot of left and right, or sound perspective.
You kind of, whatever character you're following, a lot of times almost all of it's done over radio communications. Yeah. So you'll hear voices kind of around the space if you're hearing this in surround sound.
And if they're looking at a character's looking a certain direction, the radio sound is different than when they're not.
Yeah. Or if the camera starts out inside someone's helmet, you hear their natural voice, and then it cuts outside of the camera moves outside of the helmet, and then it switches to a radio communication. The sound design is fantastic. I mean, it could have been the space we're in. There were a couple times where some of the far surround voices were a little bit unintelligible.
Yeah, but maybe that's what they did. They did that on purpose,
very well
to tie into the overall realism of the film. So we've got that going for it. Acting, let's talk about that. I think everybody was at their finest for the most part.
You don't have very many people to choose from.
Yeah, you've got George Clooney being handsome and suave and confident as ever.
Yep.
And you've got
in control,
just as you would imagine a shuttle captain to be, especially being prepared for any sort of possibility. The guy had it all figured out.
Yep. And he's been at the beginning of the film. He's flying around this little jetpack thing.
Clearly, it's his last.
He's not. He's not tethered to anything. So
he understands momentum,
and that becomes a very key device in the movie, obviously. So
then you've got Sandra Bullock, who was so terrible in the heat. I kept thinking about her in that, and then I think about this movie, and
she's fantastic.
She is fantastic. I have quibbles, which we'll get to in a later, which directly...
we're already 7 minutes in here. How long are we going to take?
Which directly revolve around maybe the dialogue. So I'll get to it.
Okay.
I'm going to say it right now.
Get to it.
So if I have a beef with the film, it is... You have moments of extreme realism, extreme panic, extreme, fighting for your life. Yeah. And then there are a few moments where... as you would say, it's a bit too on the nose in terms of the dialogue and how Sandra Bullock sort of steps back and kind of gives a speech, and she sort of, I'm not going to give away, but there's a couple moments where it felt very out of place. It pulled me out of the realism of the movie and made it feel more Hollywood to me. That's how I felt about it, and I stand by it.
This is my judging face. I don't know if I agree with you, but that's okay.
I think you're wrong.
I think
you're absolutely wrong.
I guess maybe I was just so enraptured by what was going on screen, so gripped.
It was like
with the situation that I didn't.
It was a moment where, through the whole movie, I was in 100%, and then it was like when George Clooney was tethered to Sandra, and he pulled her and yanked her, and she sort of jerked in a direction. Okay, that's how I felt. That's how I felt in that. It was probably 2 scenes.
All right,
it didn't ruin the movie for me, but compared to how the dialogue was done throughout the entire movie, it felt too Hollywood. It felt too like we need to have reach our bottom of who we are to then climb to the top of.
So now you've told me just through that what moment you're talking about, and I kind of disagree, but that's all right.
Sorry, it's the way it is.
It's the way it is, folks.
And for that, I'm giving it a 0.5 star.
Wow,
that's how judgmental I am. It certainly doesn't ruin the movie. No. I don't even think it was lazy. It was lazy writing necessarily.
Was it a means to an end?
Maybe.
Like we need to buck up, and we need to get move into a certain place, and our character needs to find some inner strength, and so maybe this is our quickest, most expedient way to get there?
Maybe, but I think that the way the movie,
right.
the way the movie was done, I don't think that it was needed.
Okay.
I don't think she needed to say anything. I think that they could have been.
Could have just been all done.
I mean,
you could read it on her face, maybe just through actions.
There are references to other things earlier in the film that set that speech up. And we knew where she was coming from. We knew how she felt. We knew who she was as a person. I didn't need her to spell it out for me any further in a soliloquy.
2.5
That's how I felt about it.
Well, you're certainly entitled to your opinion.
I am. My correct opinion.
I disagree. I think it was a perfect film, no flaws at all.
Wow.
Maybe not, but...
Yeah, it's not a 4-star film in my opinion, but it's awfully close. So is there anything else we want to talk about? Anything you feel you need to bring up?
I don't know, we should probably give it a score and then we can do our wrap-up, I guess.
Okay, so the score is...
The Scope score is 3 3/4 stars.
So there we go, 3 3/4, hard fought score.
This is one of the best films of the year, folks. Just don't even, I don't know what you're waiting, I don't know why you're still sitting there. You should probably have your tickets already purchased.
Get in line, get your new Apple iPhone, and then after that, get in line for this.
Yeah.
The movie will leave you breathless.
It's a fantastic ride, despite Shane's little quibble.
Yes, my 1/4 of a star.
I'm doing it for the audience, Shane.
1/4 of a star. It was a phenomenal film, nearly flawlessly executed.
Yeah.
I would say that Miss Bullock will probably be in Oscar contention for this one. She was good.
She carries the film on her back. She is the film,
She
honestly.
is the film.
So it kind of lives or dies by her performance, and then she did really, really well. So.
Yes, so there you go. Another installment of the Scope Fall Film Flam.
You almost fell on that one.
I almost fell in the Fall Film Flam. Go see it.
Go see it.
We got a lot more coming up, so we'll be talking about that soon as well. Right, Jared?
Mm-hmm.
So for Jared, this is Shane.
I'm just looking at the audience right now.
I'm looking at you because you're so handsome. Yeah, thanks for watching. We'll have more for you coming up another time. Arrivederci. Biatches.
Ladies and gentlemen, we find ourselves once again at the end. I hope you've enjoyed our time together. I know I have. Fear not, Scope faithful. Days shall pass as if they were but a moment, and Jared, Adam, and Shane will return with another thrilling episode. Until then, send your comments to comments@thescopeshow.com or leave a voicemail message by dialing
612-21-SCOPE. That's 612-217-2673.
Thanks for listening, faithful fans. This is Tony Partington saying arrivederci. Tune in next time to another terrific edition of The Scope.